Imagine this. Okay. You're off Bimini, bright Caribbean sun, almost too bright on the water. And then whoosh, underneath, you see them. Lemon sharks. Their undersides are whitish. They almost seem to like glow from the light bouncing off the sand. But their tops are that perfect gray camouflage. They're just nudging each other, kind of jostling for bits of barracuda. Gliding, it feels like, the completely separate universe down there, swooping in, pure instinct. And you know that cool, calm feeling you thought you had about sharks? Gone the second you open your eyes underwater and see dozens of these mythical, powerful things swarming just feet away. It's just, wow, primal.
Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. And yeah, that feeling, that's exactly what we're plunging into today, the hidden world of sharks. We're going to be sifting through some really fascinating accounts, the science, the cultural stuff, drawing a lot from Juliet Eilperin's fantastic book, Demon Fish. It's a journey that, honestly, might challenge pretty much everything you think you know about these creatures and, their role in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. Our mission today is to get past that surface level fear. We want to unpack centuries of, well, human fear, sure, but also reverence, surprisingly. We'll get into the science, the truth about these animals, look at our impact, which is often pretty devastating, and then explore some genuinely surprising ways we might actually coexist. This whole deep dive, it's about seeing sharks not just as, movie monsters, but as these complex, vital creatures, absolutely crucial to the planet's health. So let's get into it.
It is pretty striking, isn't it? How much our view of sharks has changed. I mean, historically, for so many ancient cultures, sharks weren't feared. Not primarily, anyway. They were respected, revered, even, often seen as gods, embodying nature's power. Like in Fiji, the shark god Dakuwaka, believed to be the ancestor of high chiefs. Or Japan, where a shark was the god of storms. Hawaii had the Homuncua, a shark deity, basically a guardian angel, a protector. These weren't just stories, they were fundamental, explaining humanity's place, a sort of sacred connection. The really sad part, though, is that as the sharks themselves disappear, these incredibly rich cultural tales, they're fading too, vanishing right alongside them.
That ancient respect. It
Yeah.
feels so distant now, doesn't it? How did we get from that, from gods and guardians to this pervasive fear that most people feel today? What were the big moments, the turning points that really shifted how we see them?
Well, there are a few key moments, but fundamentally, it's about how our relationship with the wild changed. One big one, even before Jaws, was the 1916 New Jersey shark attacks.
Yeah.
Real life, 4 people killed in 1 week. Right along a coastline that was just starting to get popular, city folks heading to the beach, it just unleashed this wave of terror, especially because just before it happened, prominent scientists like Frederick Augustus Lucas were basically saying, don't worry about sharks near the coast. He literally said there was practically no danger. Then those attacks happened, completely shattered that idea.
And it sounds like that fear, it wasn't just spontaneous, it was actually kind of cultivated. People leaned into it.
Oh, absolutely. You had figures like Captain William E. Young, called himself the Shark Killer. His memoir from 1934, Shark, Shark. It explicitly painted sharks as these vicious, terrible creatures with razor-sharp teeth. He made money off it, charged people 10 cents just to look at a tiger shark he caught. He literally capitalized on fear. And then, 1945, the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, a terrible tragedy. Sharks were involved in the Dessel. That became this horrifying, real-world confirmation of all those fears, really cementing that monstrous image in the American mind, a direct, visceral link. Sharks equal death.
Right. So after all that buildup, then comes Peter eventually. Jaws. 1975. I mean, can you even measure how much that book, that movie, shaped our fears? Maybe blew the actual threat way out of proportion?
Oh, Benchley's impact was just monumental. Jaws took that simmering nightmare and just blasted it onto the global stage. It embedded that image, the perfect, unrepentant killer, deep into our collective psyche. He absolutely made us think sharks are a much, much bigger threat than they are. Exaggerated their numbers, their aggression. There's that great story about Congressman Earl Blumenauer. He made a $100 bet with another politician who was convinced sharks outnumbered humans in the ocean.
Seriously, outnumbered humans.
Yeah. Blumenauer, being more eco-minded, bet against it. Just basic food chain logic, right? You can't sustain that many top predators. And of course he was right. Even marine biologists struggle to give exact numbers, but the consensus is clear. Humans, as large vertebrates, are way, way more abundant. It just perfectly shows how inflated our perception is.
The power of a good story, right? Whether it's a memoir or a blockbuster, it can literally change how we see the world.
Okay, so we've talked about how we see sharks, how that perception has swung back and forth. But what about the reality? Let's get, beneath the surface. What's the science actually tell us? Yeah, let's do that. Because the scientific reality It's way more fascinating, more elegant than the monster stories. Like, you see a shark with its jaws opening, you think aggression, right? But often, it's just breathing. It's called ram ventilation. A lot of sharks have to keep moving forward to push water over their gills. It's constant. They literally have to keep swimming or they suffocate.
Wow. Okay, so not necessarily menacing, just surviving.
Exactly. And then there's their skin. It's not scales. It's this incredible body armor called denticles.
Yeah.
They're like tiny, hard teeth covering their whole body. Strong as steel, apparently. They're specialized, different shapes for different species, and crucially, they reduce turbulence in the water. Lets them hunt almost silently.
Yeah.
Super efficient, super stealthy.
Body armor that makes them quieter. That's counterintuitive.
Isn't it? It just shows they're not just ancient killing machines, they're these masterpieces of evolutionary design, their senses, their efficiency. It really makes you rethink our own place, you know.
Absolutely. And their behavior, too, full of surprises. I read great whites can go, like a month and a half on just one big meal. They're not constantly prowling, needing to feed all the time, like in the movie.
Not at all. And they even communicate. When two great whites are after the same seal, say, they might do this tail slap. Lift that big tail fin out of the water, slam it down, splash. It's a warning. Back off.
A warning splash.
Yeah. Pretty sophisticated way to avoid a fight, right?
Yeah.
And as for humans, we're just not on the menu, honestly. Seals, sea lions, those are their power bars. High-fat, high-calorie humans. We're apparently too bony, not nutritious enough. Often, a bite is just a taste test. And, well, we fail the test. They bite, realize the mistake, and let go.
It's incredible. And they have 6 senses, right? One more than us. Their sense of smell is legendary, obviously, detecting stuff from miles away.
Miles. And they don't just smell that something is there. They use bilateral timing. They can tell which nostril picks up the scent first, even by millisecond.
No way.
Yeah. It lets them calculate the direction incredibly accurately. They follow that odor plume straight to the source. They're just finely tuned machines navigating this whole sensory world we can barely even imagine.
It makes you realize how much we don't know, even with all our tech.
Exactly. So many mysteries remain. Like, scientists track great whites traveling all the way from the California coast out to this spot between Baja and Hawaii. They call it the White Shark Cafe.
The White Shark Cafe? What is it?
That's the thing. Nobody knows exactly what they do there. Mating, feeding, just hanging out. It's this huge migration. We can track them going there. But the why is still a total enigma.
That's amazing. They still have secrets.
Loads of them. Think about whale sharks, the biggest fish on Earth.
Yeah.
We didn't even really understand their reproduction until the mid-90s. A fisherman in Taiwan caught one, and inside, hundreds of eggs, different stages of development. It changed everything. But how they mate, where, still largely unknown.
It really puts us in our place, doesn't it? And speaking of place, you mentioned our connection to them, evolutionarily.
Yeah, it's surprisingly deep. Neil Shubin wrote about it brilliantly in Your Inner Fish. A lot of our basic anatomy originated in fish, the tiny bones in our inner ear. Fish, our basic jaw structure, the biting mechanism. Fish.
Seriously, our ears.
Yep. And get this, even male hernias, they're apparently a kind of trade-off between our fish ancestry and our mammal present because testes originally formed way up near the heart, like in fish, and had to descend.
Okay, a hernia as an evolutionary throwback. That's humbling.
It really is.
No.
It shows how the same deep evolutionary currents shaped us and sharks. We're all, in a very real way, ocean creatures originally.
That is wild. So if we're linked way back, what about their ancestors? Were there, like, even scarier versions?
Oh, definitely. Shark diversity, past and present, is incredible. You've got tiny ones today, like the 6-inch spine pygmy shark fits in your hand, and then the 50-foot whale shark, gentle giant. Their ancestors.
Yeah.
Enter Carcharodon, megalodon.
Megalodon, the legend.
The legend is real. Double the size of a great white. Teeth bigger than your hand. Bite force maybe 10 times stronger than a T-Rex.
Okay, that's terrifying. Glad they're not around anymore.
Right. They rule the oceans for millions of years. True apex predators.
Incredible. And talking about survival, what about this virgin birth thing? Parthenogenesis, how does that work?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Observed in several species like bonnetheads and blacktips, a female can basically produce offspring without a male. It's a sign of their resilience, right?
Right.
A way to keep the species going if they're isolated or numbers are really low, a last resort. But it's also a bit of a trap. It's a liability, genetically speaking. You lose diversity, makes the species more vulnerable down the line.
A double-edged sword.
Exactly. And speaking of reproduction, normal shark mating, it's described as very rough.
Rough.
Males have these 2 organs called claspers, often with hooks, to grip the female. And they bite a lot to hold on. Females end up pretty beat up, skin raw, bleeding. And genetic tests They show sometimes a single litter can have multiple fathers. It's complex, intense stuff.
Wow, okay. But for all that natural toughness and adaptation, it seems like our actions are the biggest threat now. Let's get into the human impact. People like Mark the Shark Cortiano.
Right. Mark Hortiano. Based in Miami, a fishing charter guy. He actually boasts about killing maybe 100,000 sharks in his career. His whole business model is built around that macho, big game thrill, catching a monster shark as a trophy. He's kind of outlasted his rivals. And he promotes these swim-at-your-own-risk fishing tournaments. It glamorizes the danger, draws crowds. It really taps into that old idea of conquering nature, doesn't it? Treating sharks like they're limitless.
And even he admits it's harder to find them now, right, compared to like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What's the main driver behind that scarcity?
The overwhelming driver is the global shark fin trade. Simple economics, sadly. In places like Hong Kong, fins can go for like $100 a kilo. The actual shark meat, maybe $1.50.
That big a difference.
Huge. So what happens? Finning. They catch the shark, slice off the valuable fins, and just discard the body back into the ocean. Still alive, often. It maximizes profit, saves space on the boat. It's brutal, wasteful, and is probably the single biggest threat they face worldwide.
So the fins are worth a fortune, but the soup itself, shark fin soup, does it even taste like anything?
That's the crazy irony. It basically has no taste on its own. Its value is purely about status, prestige. There's this Hong Kong restaurateur, Norman Ho. He admits his place serves thousands of bowls a month, especially for weddings. Why? Because customers demand it, for show. He says all the flavor comes from the broth, the soup itself, so people pay huge amounts for texture and symbolism, not taste.
For show, wow.
And it gets worse. A study back in 2001 looked at fins in Bangkok markets, found mercury levels up to 42 times higher than the safe limit.
42 times.
Yeah, so it's a tasteless status symbol that could also poison you. It really shows how traditions, even harmful ones, can persist and drive devastating demand.
And this kind of exploitation, using sharks for products, it's not new, is it?
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a while.
Oh, yeah. Back in the early 20th century, in the U.S., there were big pushes to use sharks for leather, meat, liver oil, especially the liver oil during World War II for vitamin A. That demand actually caused the soup fin shark population to collapse. More recently, you had squalene from shark liver used in cosmetics. Big companies like Unilever, Dr. Susan Lark, they eventually dropped it under pressure because, plant-based alternatives exist.
Right.
And then there was the whole shark cartilage for cancer thing.
Right.
Total medical myth, debunked, but it's sold for years, preying on desperate people.
Yeah.
We've consistently found ways to turn sharks into commodities, often based on shaky claims, and it's just hammered their populations.
The numbers are just staggering. That research by Ransom Myers and Boris Worm, a 90% decline in big ocean predators globally. That's almost unimaginable. And specific species like hammerheads, bull sharks, down 97, 99%. And this has knock-on effects, right? These cascading effects.
Exactly. It throws the whole ecosystem out of whack. Take out the top predators, and what happens? Their prey populations can explode. Remember that cow-nosed ray example? Their shark predators declined, so the ray numbers shot up. And what do they eat? Scallops. They basically wiped out North Carolina's entire bay scallop fishery, an industry that had been there for a century. Gone, because the balance was broken.
So removing the sharks caused a fishery to collapse.
Directly. It shows just how interconnected everything is. When the cops on the street disappear, as some scientists put it, chaos follows.
It really underlines that quote from David Duboulet, the photographer, calling us modern conquistadors, discovery, conversion, destruction, conducting an uncontrolled experiment on the oceans.
Precisely. We're messing with a system we barely comprehend, treating the ocean like it's infinite and its inhabitants expendable. And the consequences, we're only just starting to really see them, pushing these ancient, incredible animals right to the edge.
It sounds incredibly bleak. But thankfully, things are starting to shift. There's a counter-narrative emerging, isn't there? Like what's happening in Cape Town.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's this growing awareness, this shift in perspective. Greg Olas, who heads environmental policy in Cape Town, put it perfectly. We see white sharks as an asset and a value. Not a problem to be eliminated. An asset. That's a fundamental change. Recognizing their worth, ecologically and intrinsically.
And part of that shift comes from scientists themselves changing, right? These researcher activists.
It does. You see scientists like Damian Chapman, Alison Cog. They're studying these animals, seeing the declines firsthand, and they feel they have to act. They prioritize getting the information out there, influencing policy, raising public awareness. Sometimes that means, maybe bending the traditional academic rules, like publicizing data quickly because the situation is urgent. And groups like the Pew Environment Group are vital. Funding the research, yes, but also helping get the word out, generating press, pushing for policy change. Science and advocacy working hand in hand.
And that's leading to some really creative conservation ideas. Tell us about that shark spotting program in Cape Town. That sounds amazing.
It really is ingenious, born out of necessity, right? They have spotters, often young people from disadvantaged areas stationed on the mountainsides overlooking the beaches. They watch the water, use radios, flags, even sirens to warn swimmers if a shark comes near. It costs the city, sure, about $125,000 a year, but it creates jobs, and crucially, it works. It's prevented deadly attacks for years now. It proves you can manage the interaction. Coexistence is possible.
That's fantastic. A community solution. What about tech? Any breakthroughs in shark deterrence?
Yeah, there's progress there too. There's the Shark POD Protective Oceanic device. It's an electrical field device for divers. Studies showed it could drop the chance of a great white attack significantly, from like 90% down to 16% in tests. And then there's chemical repellents. Shark defense technologies developed some interesting stuff. One compound called A2 smells slightly sweet, apparently. Yeah, it's based on the smell of rotting shark tissue, ironically. But it repels all sharks tested so far. And get this, it actually attracts bony fish. So it could potentially steer sharks away while maybe even helping fishermen targeting other species.
Wow, turning defense into attraction for something else. Can economics drive conservation too? Like with ecotourism?
Absolutely. That's one of the most powerful tools, actually. Look at Holbox in Mexico. It used to be a shark fishing village. Now, it's a huge whale shark tourism destination. The locals realized, quite simply, that the sharks are worth much more alive than dead. Millions of dollars flow into the local economy now. It provides jobs, sustainable income. It's proof positive that you can align economic incentives directly with protecting wildlife.
And protected areas, marine protected areas, MPAs, are they making a difference?
Hugely effective, when they're big enough and well enforced. Palau created a shark sanctuary the size of France, banned all shark fishing in its waters. We've seen great whites starting to recover off California where they're protected. And remember those lemon sharks in Bimini? Their numbers bounced back dramatically after a marine reserve was created there.
So protection works.
It does. And interestingly, former U.S. President George W. Bush played a surprisingly big role here. He created some massive marine national monuments in the Pacific, like Papahānaumokuākea, huge protected areas, despite political pushback. It shows that sometimes conservation action can come from unexpected places.
It all comes back to that idea of balance, doesn't it? The landscape of fear, sharks as cops on the street or rubbish collectors, keeping everything in check. You mentioned Yellowstone wolves.
Exactly the same principle. Putting wolves back in Yellowstone didn't just affect elk. It changed how elk behaved, where they grazed. That let willows and aspens recover along rivers. That brought back beavers, their dams stabilized the riverbanks, changed the whole ecosystem. Apex predators create these ripples, these influences that maintain the health and diversity of the whole system. Take sharks out of the ocean, and that marine balance just unravels.
But the clock is ticking. It's not just fishing anymore, is it? Climate change is the other huge elephant in the room.
It is a massive interconnected threat. The research is clear. Pretty much no area is unaffected by human influence now. Overfishing, habitat loss, and now climate change on top of it all. Warmer oceans, more acidic oceans, the decline of phytoplankton at the very bottom of the food chain. It threatens everything. Sharks, corals, the entire web of life, the health of these ancient predators. It's really a barometer for the health of the entire planet. Their fate is tied up with ours.
So we've journeyed through this world of sharks today, from, nightmare figures to these magnificent essential creatures, central to ocean health, even linked to our own deep past. It's been quite the deep dive.
It has. And ultimately, saving sharks. It comes down to choices. Real choices with real costs. Finding alternatives to fin soup, maybe. Supporting new ways for fishermen to make a living. Tackling climate change globally. It requires that fundamental shift from fear and using them up to respect and finding ways to share the planet.
Sharks have survived for hundreds of millions of years, defied the odds time and time again, but their survival now, it feels genuinely uncertain. Because of us, maybe we do well to learn from their resilience, their adaptability. For our own sake, really. So the question for all of us is, what choices will you make to help build a future where humans and these incredible creatures can actually coexist?